स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वैदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः।
ॐ नारायणः परो व्यक्तात् खण्डमव्ययसम्भवम् खण्डस्यान्तस्त्रिमे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनी ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः। Verse number 59-60. We have finished 59, and where Adi Shankara talks about the difference between suppressing the desires. The suppression of the desire is a very different thing from their resolution. Resolution implies that the desires no longer have a say over the ways in which I lead my life. And the desires no longer have a say because I have exposed myself to this knowledge in a committed way. That's why the desires do not have a say. Okay. So now it's so interesting here. So now what is happening is that anybody can suppress the desires. This we have seen. It is mind over matter. What is mind over matter? If you don't mind, it does not matter. Okay. So you suppress it. There is a way to do that. And one can be strong like Vishwamitra and suppress all the desires. And we know how well that turned out for that fellow, for that rishi. And so therefore, the suppression of the desires is not a hallmark of the knowledge. Because any idiot, as Adi Shankara says, any murkha can suppress the knowledge, not a problem at all with that. So then, what's the difference between a jnani and the one who's merely suppressing the knowledge? What's the difference? Big difference. The jnani has transcended the value for the desires. Transcended the value means what kind of value? That the fulfillment of this particular desire is going to give me something that I want. Like money is equal to peace of mind. Last time we saw this example. Money is not equal to peace of mind. Money is something that can help you buy something. And yes, maybe it can make your life comfortable. You can rub shoulders with the celebrities and maybe be featured. Your house will be featured on the lifestyles of the famous. Where they have all these Hollywood celebrities, Bollywood celebrities. And those are not just the woods. There are all other woods, sandalwood, all these things. And sandalwood means the Bollywood of South India. Bollywood of Tamil Nadu is called sandalwood. Okay. And so all these woods, and then you find that the people are there. The celebrity couple is standing outside the door, opens the door of the house and says, "Welcome to our home." They are not welcoming you. They don't want you anywhere near their house. In fact, even if you make the wrong turn, you may get shot at. That is, seems to be be the way of greeting people. Instead of saying Atithi Devo Bhava, may the one, may the guest be a personification of God unto you. You're sending them to God. That is the, directly. That seems to be the way of greeting these days. They are not wanting you anywhere near their driveway. That's why they buy a whole small hill. They have purchased the whole hill. In fact, that happened to me once. I didn't get shot at, but I was going to somebody asked me to come for Bhiksha. And somebody else was driving me, and we looked for the address. We were not finding the address. And so we called the people. This is in California. Call the people. Find out where is your house? I can't find your house. And the woman says, "Do you see a hill?" And I said, "Yes, we have been circling this hill for some time." And she said, "Well, that whole hill belongs to us." That is why people get confused. Just come slowly up the hill. I said, "Yeah, up the hill we can come. Which is your house?" He says, "You're really not getting this, are you? That's the only house which is on top of the hill. And the whole hill belongs to us." Then I said, "If the whole hill belongs to them, what must the house be like?" And definitely it was just, you could not take it in with both your eyes. You had to go like this in order to take the whole mansion in. And the walls were full of semi-precious stones. And this is what it was. And you could easily get lost. You had to make sure that you knew where you were, because you could easily get lost. And the pit bull dogs, very ferocious, that they had been sequestered for the whole duration of the satsang. That's how we could finish that. Celebrities don't want you in your house. Get rid of that notion. What do they want? They want better ratings. That's all they want. They want better ratings. And because of that, they as though let you in the house. They just want everybody to say, "Ah, a wonderful house," because who will see it otherwise? It's just two people lolling around in this, what should I say, 10,000 square foot mansion, minimum. And so they don't want you to come and bless their house or anything like that, which is what we think a guest does. No, no, no. They just want better ratings. That's why they're doing it from the comfort of being behind the camera. Please come. This is our living room. And it's very clear from this living room that nobody lives there. Because if everybody lives there, at least one thing would be out of place. So first you go into the non-living room, and then it's all just, this is an antique, and this is pure teak, and then on top of the pure teak there is an antique. Okay. Teak table, and then on top of that there is an antique, and then there is all these things going on, and then by the time you say, "Oh, I have been to their house, wonderful." They will also not show the whole house. They will just show 2, 3 rooms. That's all. You get an idea. That's all it is. And so this is the kind of the what is that? This is when you see that house and that desire. There is a emotional value. The emotional value is a subjective value. It's not that the desire is wrong. It's the desire. Why is that desire so strong if it is not wrong? The desire is strong because there is an emotional value that has nothing to do with the intellectual value. The intellectual value is an objective value. Objective value means, yes, there is this celebrity couple, and yes, they have no other business other than to buy this house, and yes, it's a nice house. Simple. And same goes for the people who own the whole hill. And then the emotional value, when it overtakes the intellectual value, that's when we run into problems. That's where we run into problems. Emotional value overtakes the intellectual value. And what is the emotional value? The emotional value is very subjective. Oh, if also I had a house, how come they have a house like this? If I also had a house like this, think how happy I would be. That's the emotional value. If I had money, all my problems would be gone. Actually, they wouldn't go. Problems will remain the same, okay? Because the problems you have nothing to do with money most of the time. Most of the time. Unless, of course, one is so poor that one doesn't even have 2 meals to scrape together. And the problems do not go. They go only in the wake of the knowledge that all this time I was belaboring under the impression that I was the holder of problems. In fact, the problems have a hold on me. And that me has to be repaired. The notion of this me as somebody who is a separate entity away from the source of the universe, away from one another, other jivas, other individuals, away from the resources, away from the jagat, from the universe. That alienation is resolved in the knowledge of this oneness, which is all what Vedanta is about. And then what happens is that the emotional value recedes, the emotional quotient recedes, and the intellectual value permeates. The buddhi prevails over the emotions. The buddhi is the thinking faculty, the reasoning faculty, the logical faculty prevails. And this is what we want. So anybody can desire suppression is easy. Anybody can do it. Everybody has been there, done that, and continues to do that. Adi Shankara says. The point is to be able to differentiate between the emotional value and the objective value, and then only go with the objective value. So now what? Then how does one get there? One gets there in the same way as the one who is the non-thinking person also starts. The thinking person also starts with holding the desires in abeyance. The non-thinking person also starts with suppressing the desires. But there's a very big difference. And what's the big difference? For the non-thinking person, the suppression of the desire is the end. It comes from childhood again. The baby cries. And what does the baby want? The baby wants the mother and the father to hold it. Why? Because it's feeling insecure. in the mummy's tummy. It was there, it was so connected to the source, literally with the umbilical cord. Not a care in the world, connected to the source. That's what one wants to feel. And then suddenly the umbilical cord is cut. It's a strange world, strange noises, and it's cold, and it doesn't know what's happening, and it yearns to have that familiar feeling of being connected to that source because it has heard the voice of the mother. It has even heard the voice of the father. It wants to feel safe. It wants to be held. It wants to be really feeling that as though it's back in the womb, even though that's not possible. So when it is left alone in a crib, in a little cradle, it will cry. It will cry. And then what? The parents, as though they had nothing better to do, read one book, Contemporary Child Rearing Practices, written by a famous psychologist, let us say. And then what does the book say? Let them cry. Psychologist also in his babyhood was allowed to cry. Okay, that's why. And that's why the psychologist said, let them cry. Let the newborn cry. Then what will it do? It will cry itself out. It will cry itself to sleep. Let them cry. They need to individuate. They need to know what is what. I mean, we are talking of a 1-month-old infant. Okay. Yeah. Well, what do you know? Okay. You are 53 years and 10 months old. What do you know? Nothing. And how can this 1 month or even a 10-month infant know anything? And it will know. It will figure out that there is nobody around and there is no need to cry. Yes, it does figure out. How does it figure out? By suppressing the cause of the tears. That is what, because the baby has no viveka. Baby doesn't know what viveka is, what is discrimination. The baby doesn't know. So the baby cries itself out to sleep every single day. And then what? Gets used to the fact that there is nobody going to be there for it. Even as an adult, has that lingering feeling. Nobody is there for me. I'm all on my own. But this is bravado. Nobody can be on their own. It's not even possible. Everybody needs help from somebody else. Even the person who says, I'm doing a lot of seva, needs seva. So, therefore, really, the world is meant to be interdependent. There is a being and there is an interbeing. There is a beingness of being with others. That's what this whole experience of being a human being is all about. It's about discovering that interbeing of the various connections and being able to negotiate those connections with grace and integrity before one understands that there is another vantage point beyond these connections. So here, the child, one has learned, as a child, one has learned to suppress all the desires, every single thing. And then that is just a coping mechanism. Coping mechanism as a child turns into a moping mechanism as an adult. No doubt there. No doubt at all. And so therefore, there is the need to go beyond this step. Everybody knows how to suppress the desires, and that's because of the sheer reality that your longings are not going to be fulfilled. So you have to suppress them. What other option does the child have? Somewhere the intelligence operates and says, okay, I am exhausted out of crying myself hoarse, and that's all I have, and nobody's going to come. Why? They haven't come. Yesterday they did come. Day before yesterday they didn't come. Today they didn't come. So tomorrow also they're not going to come. The child adapts itself, proving that stupid psychologist right. Yes, the child will learn how to. Yeah, but at what cost? That's what is not understood. That's not is what not what is discussed. So then what happens is that there is this even though the starting point for the person with discrimination, the one who has viveka, and for the person without discrimination is the same. We start with with trying to have a say over the desires, but that is not the end point. This is what is being very, very, very carefully talked about. That's not the end point. That is far, 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 far from the end point. But for the person who doesn't know better, that is the end point, and it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead you anywhere at all. Now, for the person who has viveka and has a desire for this knowledge, then the working with not fulfilling the desires, working with that avenue becomes an opening to qualify for this knowledge. So both the starting points of both are the same. But for the person who is trying to overcome this desire in order to gain this knowledge, then it becomes very different. Then it becomes a sadhana, and sadhana means a practice for emotional growth, maturity, growing out of the subjective value for anything. And so, therefore, this is the this is the way to go. Even though when after suppressing the desires, the value for the desire remains, it is still the way to go, because that value, that emotional value, can be healed by exposing it to the light of this knowledge. That is the idea. Okay. Then, connecting the two verses, he has something to say. Samyak darshana, he means Adi Shankara here. Samyak darshana lakshana prajna sthairyam chikirshata adau indriyani swavashe sthapitavyani yasmat tad avasthane tad anamasthane dosham aha. Meaning, the one who wishes to try to get themselves firmly in this knowledge, established in this knowledge, with the right awareness and right perception. Perception means the right understanding of the value, not being not succumbing to the subjective value. Then the first thing they should do is to bring under the subjugation of their senses all the painful desires. So the painful desires, the desires which cause pain when they are not fulfilled, that's what we call painful desires. So the painful desires first are subjugated. You have to start there. Even though if you just do that and don't do anything else, nothing is going to happen, but this is the starting point. So the management of the desires by first staying away from those triggers, that's very important. Like we talked last time about alcohol, it's a trigger. For the person who has an addictive personality, that is a trigger. Like this, so many things. Food can be a trigger. Certain kinds of foods. I mean, if you have, what should I say, dal and rice at home, I mean, rarely is that a trigger to go on a binge, because it's so boring. But then, if you have other things at home, French fries you have at home, then that's a trigger. You feel like eating it. And they put, salt and everything, which are all very attractive. If you have lots of sugary things and in the house as a trigger, then that's a trigger. So then now recently they said that French fries cause depression. And I don't know, I haven't read that article. I don't know whether they are saying the presence of the French fries caused depression or the absence of the French fries caused depression. I think it's the former. But anyway, this is all. So, sugar causes depression. Now, French fries also cause depression. Now, I don't know whether my depression is caused by the French fries or whether my depression is caused by all these things, the news that all these things are causing depression. And then I have to slowly come out of each and everything. I haven't a clue. Okay. So then, so certain triggers are there. The foods themselves are triggering because there is an emotional value, there is an addictive factor there. So the first thing to do is, the people will say, the naturopaths will say, don't have any food in the house. What do you mean don't have any food in the house? Just drink water. Naturopathy, the mainstay of naturopathy is water. Very nice. And breathe and then drink water. Very nice. It's a very economical, what should I say, health regimen. Economical for whom? For the naturopath. Because without spending anything, no medicine, nothing. No oil. In Ayurveda, they just pickle you in oil. And that's very expensive, all these medicated oils. And you have to stay there pickled in oil for 15 days. All that is not there in naturopathy. Just drink water. Right? All the time. Keep drinking water. So you check yourself into a naturopathy clinic. 15 days just water fast. 10-day water fast. You don't have to go there. Just celebrate Navaratri twice a year. That's enough. And you can do your 9-day water fast. People do that. So this is the thing. So then you rid your kitchen of all the addictive things. Step one. But then when you find the same thing in your friend's house, then you find you're visiting your friend very often. Before you were not visiting. Now you find that you're going there all the time. Your friend is also wondering what happened. And so that means what? That even though you are away from these particular kinds of foods, then the value for those foods are there, which is what is leading you to seek them in other places. You're not buying them, but you can go to your friend's house and you know that he or she, they will offer you that thing. And then so you just get a little fix over it. And so that means that the emotional value is still present. But then what happens? You understand this and you stop visiting the friend in order to have the fries. Okay? Yeah. Then what happens at the same time? You're also attending Gita classes, Vedanta classes, etc. And so the desire for the fries is finally fried. Bhasmi kritam. Okay? Yes. And so it is like ashes. That's why we love ashes so much. And the ashes, is just the remnants of the desire that have no use. That's why they are called vibhuti, glory. So if you have a sack of ashes at home, like Lord Shiva invests only in ash. Okay, so Lord Shiva has sacks of ashes at home. There is a small children's story that says that. And so what does that mean? The person is very, very wealthy. Lord Shiva, wealthy? Come on. Wealthy means what? The person doesn't have anything. Lord Shiva is seen with a begging bowl and a little elephant skin or tiger skin around him for clothing. How can he be very wealthy? He is very wealthy because he has the treasure of letting go of so much. So it's like being surrounded by garbage bags. And like when you're moving out of one house to another house, you're surrounded by garbage bags. And even though it's annoying, there is a sense of accomplishment. Look, I've managed to rid myself of all this. That is what the ash is. Okay? That is what Lord Shiva is. not to confuse it with Lord Vishnu. Vishnu is cash. Okay, Shiva is ash. That's what it is. And then, so now coming back to this is the way to go. At first is the making the sense organs come back to oneself rather than be frittered away everywhere, trying to get that, trying to get this, trying to go here, trying to go there. No, the sense organs are with yourself. If you say go, inhale this wonderful aroma, then they will go. Otherwise, they are with you. You have a say over the way of the senses. This is important because if the jnani wannabe tries to skip this step, what is going to happen is talked about in the next mantra, next verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Because if the senses are not under one's belt, then what is the difficulty, what is the dosha arising from skipping this step is talked about in verse 60. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashtitaha. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashtitaha. Indriyani pramathini हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः. Very nice. Yatatah api. Te Kaunteya. Kaunteya means Kunti Putra, son of Kunti. He has all these pet names for Arjuna. Lord Krishna does. And the pet names for Arjuna are not just random, we find. We find that they are very, very appropriate. Like when he wants to infuse Arjuna with some kind of a pep talk or give him courage, he says, Mahabahu, the mighty armed one, go fight. And sometimes he calls him Kaunteya, Partha. Kaunteya means what? Mama's boy. That's what it means. Partha also means Mama's boy. Pritha is another name for Kunti. Mama's boy means what? Just, wanting safety, wanting this thing, not ready to take on the world. Failure to launch in a certain way on their own. Somehow still Mama's boy means Papa's boy also, but really there is some kind of a synergy between mother and son, and so here, and father and daughter, and so that is what is being pointed here. So this is, he says this step is not for the faint heart. So if you are ready to look beyond the apron strings and let go of this, you can see what I'm trying to talk about. And what is it that I'm trying to say? Lord Krishna says, Yatataha hi api. He means although, he also means indeed. Both the meanings apply here. So, although, and also because. So all three meanings are there, we'll see that. Just the word he. So, yatataha api. Even for the person, yatataha means the one who is striving. Striving for what? Moksha. Moksha. Not striving to give up the desires. No. Even though one is trying for liberation from samsara, liberation from a sense of want and a sense of alienation, liberation from the addiction to the finite, and therefore liberation from fear and sorrow. Because the addiction to the finite just causes fear and sorrow. What else does it do? Nothing else. So, yatataha api purushasya. Yatataha purushaha Purushasya or in Samanadhikaranyam in apposition, not opposition, apposition, meaning the yatataha, the word yatataha qualifies the word purushaha. Both are in 6 case, which means for the striving person. Who is what? Vipaschitaha. Vipaschitaha means the wise person. So even though the person is on the way to moksha, they are almost there. They are wise, meaning they are not suppressing the desires. They are trying to have a say over them while being committed to this knowledge. They're not just suppressing the desires. And so, even though they are wise, wise means relatively wise, the wise person, on the way to the wisdom of the self, the knowledge of the self. What happens? Many a time, even for the courageous one, even for the committed one. This, let me just, in terms of full disclosure, this is a little bit of a depressing verse. Okay, yeah, but we will overcome that. So, for the person, even though one is on the brink of wisdom, one can say, Indriyani pramadhini, the sense organs default. Pramadhini means the ones who are erring. The sense organs are erring. Pramadhana means they from math. Math means to churn. Yes. Churn means agitate. Like a washing machine on a spin cycle. Churning, agitate. That's what they say. Even the washing machine agitates. Fine if the washing machine agitates, but if that agitation is like inside, it's on a cycle. You see something and suddenly that emotional value is suddenly watered, nurtured, and like a weed, it grows. And then it just catches you offhand, catches you. And then what? Do not rest on the laurels of Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam, because any day one can just, be forcibly taken away by the sense organs that have gone rogue. And what do the sense organs do? Not content with abandoning one's goals and following the desire in question, they also take the mind with them. Haranti prasabham. Prasabham means kidnapping forcibly. They kidnap the mind. They put a sack over the mind so that it cannot see objectively. And very forcibly, it is hijacked. The mind is hijacked. And the mind becomes a slave to the sense organs, which are enslaved to the sense objects. So the mind he says, yeah, the mind becomes completely under the turmoil of the sense organs, and then it keeps on in order to save itself. What can it do? In order to be alive, it's being waterboarded, it's being tormented, it's being tortured. So it says, yes, 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 the emotional value is the best value, the other value is not correct. Yes, it has succumbed. The mind gets Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome means where you are falling in love with the captors. This is what happens. This is we have seen this, that under terrible situations, that under terrible upbringing, even the children under terrible upbringing of abuse, neglect, all these horrors that we hear of in the news, in the papers. So such kind of horrors, and you find that the offspring of such parents, even after they are rescued, we find all these things in the news, that the children are chained to the bed and they are made to work for a living from age 7 onwards. And so all kinds of travails they have gone through, unspeakable, unthinkable things they have gone through. And yet, after being released, they are defending the parents. We are really defending the parents because that's what they had to do to be alive. And so, similarly, the mind, in order to continue thinking, has to think like the sense organs, meaning has to go and justify the emotional value. The alcoholic person, the person given to alcohol, who says, I can give it up anytime. I can give alcohol up anytime, not a big deal. I've already given it up 33 times. So, no problem at all. So you see how the mind is completely under this. One thinks, the sad part here is that one thinks one is being objective, but no, it is subjectivity personified. And one is no longer available for any kind of counseling, spiritual, emotional, no. That's why one stages, the people, the loved ones have to stage what is called an intervention because it has gone so far. Intervention means everybody will suddenly assemble. And then the person given to this addiction is wondering what happened, what happened, what happened. Suddenly they will all assemble and suddenly they will say, oh, we love you so much and then you're doing this to yourself. And we have arranged for you to go to rehabilitation to dry out from this particular desire under some wonderful supportive mechanisms. You come out of this pain, this addiction, you come out of this. And then what? Then you can, you can have another chance. Let the mind come out of this because the mind is not available for reason. That's why the intervention has to have some element of force there. The mind and the person thinks that they are being kidnapped. In fact, they don't know that they were already kidnapped. They're being released now. But they have been so brainwashed by the desire and by the sense organs following the desire and by the mind being hijacked to just keep on saying the official position, which is what? No, I'm in charge. I'm in charge. I can leave it anytime. No problem. I'm still going to work. I'm still employed. I'm still bringing home a paycheck. All these excuses. Yes, you're bringing home your paycheck, but you're frying your liver. Yeah, but that's okay. I can get a transplant. This person will say things like this. And so therefore, what does one do here? One has to forcibly bring the mind back. And that feels like one is being kidnapped, unfortunately. Even though the loved ones are finally showing this person that we love you so much, we want you back with us. We don't want you to go into this deep hole of denial and self-abnegation and destruction. So the reclaiming of the mind with the help of the friends appears to be the hijacking because the person is thinking is so skewed. That's why sometimes the intervention works and sometimes it doesn't work. Person can scream and yell and then drive everybody away. And that is also there. But if it's done properly and the person sits in the car that has been there, that has been with the friend's car, the friend has arranged to go away to this place, and then the person goes away for a period of time to start with where we started earlier about not suppressing, but staying away from those things, those triggers. Go back to that. And that's why this step of staying away from the triggers is very, very important because even for the person of wisdom and clarity, sometimes the sense organs can cause such agitation. These sense organs, which are nothing but agitation personified, haranti prasabham manaha. So they forcibly hijack the mind. They forcibly hijack the mind. Therefore, this is something that one must be vigilant. There is need for vigilance and there is need for going step by step. First, one understands that I have the power to stay away from those desires which torment me, where I have an addiction. And then what? Then the next thing I know is to heal myself of those addictions by understanding what this I is about and also taking some local help like therapy, etc., whatever is needed. Then the next thing is to study Vedanta in order to understand that the difference between the subjective and the objective value of that particular thing. And this is the step forward. This is the way forward. If one decides to skip this step, one sees that even for the person who is relatively wise, this kind of a slippage, going off track, can happen. This is why sometimes people study Vedanta and then they drop out. Even after some time, they've been coming to the classes for so many months or 1 year or something like that, then suddenly something happens. They suddenly get the feeling, I don't need this anymore. And why don't you need this anymore? Because something else is calling to me, which has an emotional value. Vedanta cannot have an emotional value because it's all about you, that the objective you. So then the subjective overpowers the objective. And then one justifies, yes, I've been there, done that, there is nothing much anyway. And like that person who told Pujya Swamiji, whenever I come, you're either talking about Atma or Brahman. So that's why I stopped coming. Only two things you're talking about. What did Pujya Swamiji say? Ayushman Bhava, live long, make you live long and happy. That's all we can say. Nothing else. We just bless them and send them on their way. Don't try to reason, don't try to, do an intervention. Because why not do an intervention? Vedanta itself is an intervention. Each Upanishad is like a mother, a loving mother who says we are on the wrong path. That's what it is. Vedanta itself is an intervention. And if the person goes away, you can try to reason with them, you can try to say what happened. But then that's all it is. You can't, there's no point in trying to waste your time to try to quote unquote bring them back, because this is not some kind of a evangelical enterprise. Everybody is an adult and it's a free, one is free. And it's only when the free will is choosing to understand this, then only it will work. We can tie the person and put them in front of the computer or in front of a live teacher. Nothing will happen because the mind is tied up somewhere else. So therefore, this is a kind of a verse for vigilance. Then he says, let's look at the Bhashya. Prayatnam kurvataha api, he takes it as yasmat because prayatnam kurvataha means even the one who is striving, endeavoring for moksha. Yasmat, because kaunteya, o Arjuna, purushasya vipaschitaha means medhavinaha, the intelligent person who is strong, who thinks oneself to be invincible. Api iti vyavahitena sambandhaha. So the word api has to come. Vyavahita means purushasya. Yatataha api. Yatataha api. The word he has come in between yatataha and api. That's all. It's a small little point. So yatato api should have been, but yatataha he has come in between. But ignore that and think that the api, the also, is connected with the striving, even despite, although the person is striving, yatataha api, then for that person, indriyani pramathini, pramatha shilani, vishayabhimukham, vishayabhimukhani. Meaning, what is the indriyas? The indriyas means the sense organs they are pramadhini, means they are they have the ability to cause agitation. Why? Vishayabhimukham. So Vishayabhimukham hi purusham vikshobhayanti. Vikshobhayanti means they torment, from shubh to torment, torture. They torture the person, vikshobhayanti. Akuli kurvanti. Akuli means they agitate. Vyakula, akula. They agitate the person, they make the person, they torment and torture the person. Why? Because the person has not lost the value, the emotional value for those objects. Vishayabhimukham means the person is abhimukha, facing the desire, in front of the object of desire, or at least thinking about it, doesn't matter. So then that person, akuli kurvanti, they agitate. And then what? Akuli krityacha haranti prasabham prasahya prakasham eva pashyatah viveka vijnana yuktah manaha. So, akuli kurvanti means they agitate. Akuli krityacha, having agitated, then they drag the person forcibly towards the objects of the senses. They drag the person means the mind, the ahankara, etc. They drag the person forcibly towards the sensory objects. Then what happens? Prasahya prakashameva pashyatah viveka vijnana yuktam manaha. Then, in spite of all the discrimination, viveka, and all the learning, whatever the person has done, the mind, even as the person looks on, succumbs to those objects of the passions. Succumbs, the mind succumbs, even as the person is looking on. And so this means what? That one cannot be complacent. Complacency is the first sign of being derailed. That vigilance, a soft vigilance is required. It's not about controlling the sense organs, but making sure that one is not being hijacked by them. Because it all starts very small. There's a very beautiful set of verses coming up. Starts as a little fancy. And then you say, oh, I'm not spending money. I'm not actually buying that thing. I'm not even in front of that thing. I'm just dreaming of that thing during the day, daydreaming. And that daydreaming is not costing money, and I'm not indulging in it, so what's the harm? Daydreaming is the beginning of this downfall. That is what Lord Krishna says. Because first it arises as a fancy, then it becomes a full-fledged desire, and then you keep on dwelling upon the desire, then the hands and legs itch to go get that desire fulfilled. They don't let you sit quietly. They itch, they pain, and then, and then they cause pressure. They cause a certain restlessness to get the desire fulfilled. And then, so therefore what? Therefore, the need for this verse, therefore the need for this verse to know how exactly it proceeds. And what is how to come out of this is described in verse number 61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. Vashehi yasyendriyani तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य. Samyamya means managing the sense organs. Yuktah asita, asitah matparah. Yuktah means, the asitah means the person is sitting. Asitah. Yukta asita. Asita means sitting. Sitting, how? Matparaha, in contemplation. So having overpowered the sense organs, having trained oneself to not let the mind go after the sense organs through contemplative practices, meditation, etc. The person who is yukta together, who is collected. Yukta means connected together. The senses are with him or her, the mind is with him or her, everything is with him or her. The ahankara is with them, the mind is with them, such a person. May the person sit in contemplation of me as nothing but oneself. Because vashehi yasya indriyani, or the person for whom the sense organs have been captured by themselves, and the sense organs are with whom, such a person, tasya prajna pratisthita. That person is known to be the jnani, whose knowledge is well established. Tutani sarvani samyamya. All the sense organs are with that person only. It's not that I know how to have a say over the ears and things that are heard, but with things that are seen, not so much. That doesn't work. Things that are seen, heard, everything. All the sense organs are with me. I operate the sense organs. They do not operate me. And then what? The person sits in contemplation, because the person can now meditate. Why? Because the sense organs are not driving them to here, there, and all kinds of crazy places. The person can now meditate. And then what? Person meditates and then is able to be free of the torture of the sense organs. Very nice, beautiful. Then from verse 62 to 62, 63, 62 to 64, we have a very nice practical way of practical illustration of how to do this. Very beautiful set of verses are coming up, and then we'll see that next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. There is a question. Confused about Vedanta does not have an emotional value. It is really the knowledge of oneself. Yes. I thought developing Shraddha was emotional. Or does the emotional value just refer to Raga Dveshas? See, Shraddha is emotional in the sense that it is trust. But that's not Vedanta. That is preparation for Vedanta. Shraddha is preparation for Vedanta. Vedanta simply means, when I say Vedanta Shastra, that you are not separate from anything else. In fact, there is no other thing other than you. You are that which is one with the cause of the universe, meaning that same conscious presence which is existent in everything that has name, that has form, is nothing but that same consciousness which is self-evident, which obtains as I, as your own presence. That is Vedanta. That's objective. It's not emotional. It can never have an emotional value. It is totally bereft of that. But here, what we are talking about is that, the Shraddha is, of course, I mean, you have a certain value for this knowledge, you have trust, pending, understanding, there is Guru, there is an emotional value towards the Guru, there is emotional value towards an ashram. Oh, I love this ashram, I love this teacher. All that is okay. That's all there. But Vedanta doesn't have an emotional value. Yeah, that's the thing. You can't have Dvesha for Vedanta. And the raga that you have for Vedanta is the raga for yourself.
What?
The raga you have for Vedanta is the raga that you have for yourself. It's not really a raga, it's that self-love. Raga means unbridled preferences. That's what it is. And you can have an unbridled preference when that can satiate. And so the raga for the self is swaraga, and that swaraga is satiated because the self that for which you have the emotional value, raga here, happens to be everything. So really speaking, the raga stops being a raga because there is purnatvam there, fulfillment is possible there. So the raga is assuaged once and for all, whereas the raga associated with objects is never assuaged. Yeah, very good question. Okay, all the best.
Thank you so much.